All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week of our Beyond Labels book club. My name is Tangi, and I am the mama at this Freedom Homestead um, place. And I need to send Constance a link because she didn't get it. So you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves, and I will get her set up.
All right. Hey, everybody. Good morning. I'm Julie from Row & Co Farms. I'm glad to be here with you guys today. If this is your first time with us, we're discussing our book, Beyond Labels. If you have it, this is it. There we go. If you don't have it, check it out. It's by Salatin and Sina McCullough, and we're talking about real food and reading food labels and stuff like that. So I have a homestead and a flower farm in central Georgia. We've been homesteading for about 12 years, and we have a YouTube channel and a website, and just really enjoy bringing lots of homesteading content to you guys. So if you want to check me out, I think Tangi has links for everybody down below, but glad to be here with you all today.
I am Anna from the Fermented Homestead, and I have a YouTube channel. I don't have any fancy flower farms or anything like that. I'm just on the YouTubes, and we are getting ready for a big transition in our life. We're just kind of picking up our roots and heading out. So that will be coming up on our channel. I just like to do all kinds of food preservation videos, as well as healing. Weston A. Price type thing is my eventual goal, and we're just kind of working on that and hoping that will I don't know. I guess that's just my eventual goal. So.
Okay, we got Constance. All right.
Hello.
Do you want to go ahead and do a quick intro to yourself in your channel?
Sure. I'm Constance at A Good Life Farm and agoodlifefarm.com. And I have missed the last couple of weeks because we've been dealing with wild pigs, but that's a whole different story. Yeah. And so I'm a blogger, YouTuber, all those wonderful things, just like these ladies. And I'm enjoying the book.
All right. Yeah, this book is so good. I mean, it is just so good. And I love the dialogue between the two writers. You feel like you're right there with them having the conversation. And I don't know if you guys know who what are they called? Oh man, my Diamond and Silk. Diamond and Silk, do y'all know who that is? I love them. And I kind of feel like the one with the glasses and the short hair, like, got that right. I love them. They are so funny. Okay. So this week we are going to be discussing Practical Bites 21 through 25. And just a quick recap for those who might be joining who have never been here before. We are reading Beyond Labels, like Julie said earlier, written by Joel Salatin, who is a regenerative farmer who has been in the back to basics food movement for decades. He has spoken to different people in politics, to different groups. He has written books. And it is all to push back, to get us back where we used to be, which is in a society where our food was not dictated by our government. Because what they claim to be for the greater good is really for their wallets. And the effect of that has caused a sicker society. And guess what? That part of our government is also connected to the wellness part of the government, the ones that control the medicine and the healthcare. And so it has just developed this horrible cycle of sick citizens who are just sick. And instead of making us better, they're making us worse. And so this book is basically geared toward putting the power back in your hands by telling you how you can do that one small step at a time. because it could be overwhelming if you're like me and you've got a pantry full of food and you're going, I can't just throw all this away and buy all organic. That's just so expensive. Like, how would we do that? That's what this book is about. It's about taking one step at a time. So it's not overwhelming for you and your family, and you can take that power back, take that control back, and take your health back. Okay, so this week, like I said, we are covering Practical Bites 21 through 25. And this, the first Practical Bite is be informed at restaurants. So let's discuss. One of the things they talk about is that you can go into a restaurant and you can ask for a pamphlet or something that has their information on there. But you can also go online before you go to the restaurant. I did this a lot back when I started. Thanks, Heather. When I started watching what I was eating, just not really looking at what was in the food at that time. When I first started, it was I wanted to know the calories and the carbs and all of that stuff. So, all right. So let's say we're going to a restaurant. What are we looking for before we go? Ladies.
I'll start. So generally, if I'm going somewhere, and I don't do this every time, I'm not going to act like I don't go to places that serve, factory raised chicken. I'm sure I do, but that would be something to think about. So if you're going to go to a restaurant, say it's fast food, say you're going to Zaxby's. Okay. Most people have Zaxby's. You go online, you look and say, hey, it's a chicken chain, basically chicken wings and chicken tenders. That we have that here. But anyway, so Zaxby's would be one here, and I would look and say, hey, okay, where do they source their chicken? Like, is it factory? And it is factory raised. Where do they source their potatoes? Where do they source their oil? Like, what oil are they cooking in? Those would probably be the main things. Like, what oil do they cook in, and where do they source their meats from? That would be my first place to start. And then, of course, in my situation with allergies, I'm looking at, do you cook beef? Do you cook pork? Do you cook other stuff like that? But that's a separate issue. But yeah, those are things that I think about before I go out to eat.
I go out to eat, with the exception of any kind of travel. We only go out to eat about 4 times per year, once on each of our birthdays and our anniversary. And we don't usually. We should. I think there's a difference between should and do. The best things to do is things that he mentioned is just making sure that it is, grass-fed meat or it's pasture-raised chicken. I think probably just knowing, if you're not traveling, and knowing ahead of time what restaurants in your area that you can go to, because you only have to do the research once. You may want to follow up and make sure they're still doing the things that they are doing periodically if you go out a lot. But if you would just find the great restaurants in your area, the ones that do have those quality ingredients, you only have to find them once, and then you just have to maintain them and, look at other places that pop up from time to time. But just doing that research ahead of time, and the grass-fed, the organic ingredients. I'll be real, I've never seen a restaurant in my area that advertises as having organic food, or the restaurant that I work at is the only one that I know of that has grass-fed beef. But that's not to say they don't exist. I've just never found them. But those would be the things that would be most important to me, would just be, good quality ingredients and sourcing the animals well.
Yeah, one thing I learned, I don't know, it's been rather recently, is that some restaurants, fast food chains or franchises, on their website, if they serve chicken, you can find out what the chicken was fed when it was still alive. I think Chick-fil-A is one of those restaurants you can find out what they were fed. And so, again, that if that's something that's important to you, then that's a good thing to look at. But yeah, in my area, there's not. We have a couple of restaurants that source their ingredients, most of their ingredients locally, but none that claim to be organic.
Yeah, we do have a couple around here. I know, and I mentioned it in a video a few weeks ago when we were talking about eating out and things like that. We do have a restaurant that shares like where they source all of their meats and all that stuff. And so that's nice. But they don't necessarily say that they're organic or anything like that. They just support local farmers. There is, however, a restaurant in Huntsville, which is about 40 minutes away from me, that it's not like a sit down fancy restaurant. It's kind of like a lunch sort of place. But they do advertise that they are a totally organic place. And I have a lady that I know who that's pretty much the only place that she can eat, because anytime she eats anywhere else, she gets super, super sick. And so that's how I found out about that place, was through her, because it's the only place that she can go.
Okay, so yeah, I think it really, when it says be informed when you go to restaurants, you're basically, I think what we've all said is it's whatever is important to you is what you're looking for. So if you're more concerned about clean ingredients, there's a good chance you're not going to find it in a restaurant. We know you're not going to find it in a fast food place. But yeah, so, and again, if it's a practical bite that you're looking for, like Anna said, she works at a place where they sell or they use grass-fed beef in their on their menu, then that might be, you want to search out something like that. So yeah, all right. Very, very cool. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on, unless y'all have anything else you want to add to be informed at restaurants. If not, the next, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one thing that a lot of people don't take into account is finding out what kind of oil they use in the fryer. You can find places that use like tallow or things like that in their oil. Most places are going to use soy. I found, and so, it's just one thing to know if you care about it.
Most, that is something I ask a lot, because I actually have to know for sure. I can't have anything cooked in lard or tallow. So when I ask, and again, I don't want to consume vegetable oil or corn oil either, but given the options, I have very few options sometimes. Given the option, if I'm out and I don't have a choice, I'm going to get the stuff that's cooked in the vegetable oil, unfortunately, which a lot of times I just need to not eat any of it, because lard and tallow doesn't work. That has anaphylactic properties for me. And then the other stuff is just terrible for you. So the chances of me getting something cooked in an oil that's actually healthy for me when I go out is zero. Nobody's cooking generally out to eat. Nobody's cooking in chicken fat or duck fat. and some places might be cooking in butter, but other than that, you're stuck with those high processed oils. Nobody's using coconut oil generally in a restaurant, or avocado oil, not for frying things. They're using those high hydrogenated oils. And so, yeah, I'm stuck sometimes with my options there, unfortunately. But yeah, those seed oils, they're in every restaurant is cooking with those. Even the good ones are cooking with those. So, it's just what's accepted now. That's what people, that's what they cook with. It's cheap. And so they use it.
Yeah, Heather mentioned that you have to be careful and think about all the things that are cross-contaminated in those oils as well, in those deep fryers.
Yeah, I don't have food allergies, but I can't imagine how frustrating that would be, and scary, because really you have to take their word for it, and you're risking your life every time you go out to eat. Oh me. Okay. All right, so practical bite number 2 is look for the duo, and that is referring to, sorry, I was looking ahead at something earlier. That is looking for non-GMO and USDA organic, I think, right? Yes. So the USDA organic label plus the non-GMO project label. So one thing that they put out, and I highlighted it in my reading, is that roughly 75% of processed foods in the store contain GMO corn. How crazy is that? 75% of anything that comes in a box has non-GMO corn in it, or sorry, GM corn. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that was a little shocking.
That's huge. So I kind of want to kind of sidestep really quick. And Constance, can you share with everybody the information you found out that you shared with us privately about the food shortage that's coming up with corn?
Oh, well, yeah. So the other day I saw a report that said, well, in case people don't know, there's like a perfect storm of problems with our food supply. And part of it has to do with supply chain issues. Part of it has to do with the conflict that's over in Europe right now. And Russia and the Ukraine are now the breadbasket of the world. It used to be the United States as far as feeding the world. It's now those two countries. And of course, Ukraine isn't planting anything because of what's going on. But what a lot of people don't realize is that Russia is also the supplier of fertilizer, like the largest supplier of fertilizer in the world. And we get a lot of our fertilizer, our farmers do, from Russia. And of course, now there's sanctions and all this stuff. So our largest supplier of fertilizer, not to mention all the other shortages, has been cut off. And the report showed that 2 million acres of corn are being left unplanted this year. And that's just the corn because of everything that is going on. So if you extrapolate that out across all of the different crops that are grown here in the United States, but that, of course, the corn is going to affect so many other things, and not even getting into the whole GMO, non-GMO aspect of it. But we have fuel that's made out of that. There's plastics that are made out of corn. There's all sorts of things that are made out of corn, not to mention feed for animals, and again, not even taking into account all of the other things, but just knowing that the typical American who goes and buys meat at the grocery store, just regular meat, those prices are going to go through the roof because the farmers aren't going to be able to feed their pigs. Which, by the way, not to bring in my pig situation, but that is one of the that is actually one of the theories of why I'm dealing with this massive influx of a plague of pigs. Is the USDA office that I've been talking to thinks it's possible that they may have been released because people couldn't feed them. But yeah, we're looking at some tough things ahead.
Yeah, and Heather just said, one bonus with the fertilizer shortage is that many farmers are moving over to organic practices because they can't get the chemical fertilizers. And not trying to make this, not trying to get off topic, but one of the things that I thought of, Constance, when you shared that with us, was like, can't we just go back to when the Pilgrims came over and the Indians showed them how to put plant fish with the corn? And it's like we are so
Disconnected
about everything. Yeah. We're disconnected. We're disconnected from everything. And it's like, okay, if we truly did have a grid down situation, or, if Russia messes up our internet and we can't do all the things that we do on the internet, we had a life before the internet, and it wasn't that long ago. I mean, I remember when we got internet at our house, I was 15 years old. Y'all, I'm fixing to be 42. It was not that long ago, but it's like, we're so dependent on everything running a certain way. And we've got this generation coming up not knowing how to do things manually, not knowing how to do things, not knowing how to plant the fish with the corn. And it's just like, we can still function as a society. We just have to not freak out. We just need to go back to the way things were done before. And so this whole corn situation, it might be a blessing in disguise, like Heather was saying, with going to organic practices. But we have so many disconnected people around us that this could cause chaos. And it's very frustrating. Anyway, so sorry that we sidestepped, but I thought this was like a good time to talk about it if we were going to talk about it. Okay.
Well, I mean, it is kind of related though, because most Americans are so disconnected from their food supply. They don't know what it takes to grow what they see on their grocery store shelves or anything like that. They don't know the sources of it. They don't know what goes into it. They don't know that the tractors that the farmers use cost millions of dollars and the farmers don't drive them. They're run by satellites. So, I mean, it's just, people have no idea. But we have a donkey and a mule, and a lot of people ask us why we have them. They're minis, and they are kind of pets. And I don't really want to have things here that don't serve a purpose. But I can tell you that mini mule and mini donkey provide garden gold. I don't have to go buy compost anymore. I don't have to go buy all the fertilizers, because we have a source for it about as locally as you can get. It's right out there.
Yeah, same for us. We have a herd of cattle, and we don't eat them now, obviously, because of the beef thing, but we get literally tons of poop from them, and we use that as fertilizer. And yeah, if we eventually, or if we end up having to kind of bring things back locally, like we may have to, people are going to have to do those victory gardens and use some of the more local things that they can find for fertilizer. And it's right there. I mean, it's right there. And if you're doing more of that closed loop system where you're doing more things on your homestead, like when you have all this poop, you have to do something with it. You can't just leave it there. You have to work it in. And this is just the way that you do that. And it's just closing that gap, like what else are you going to do with the poop besides make it into compost? I mean, or whatever they do, spray it on fields or something, sludge it up and spray it on things. Like, we're not going to do that. But yeah, I mean, there is a way to kind of close that gap. And I think people will realize that when those, I hate to say it, when those shortages start to happen, people are going to have to look more closer to home to find those food sources and their fertilizer sources and their other, things to close that gap. So yeah, it's connected. It's all connected.
And I think those HOAs are going to have to get over themselves and let people grow food in their yards like it used to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a little out of breath, but when we were talking, I wanted to show you all this. In 2016, I grew probably 10 to 12 foot rows of glass gem corn. I still have some. I have another one of these. I've used some. It's beautiful. It's an heirloom corn, and it looks like little jewels. I grew it for a couple of reasons. One, it's very beautiful. If you've never seen it, you can do a quick Google search of what glass gem corn looks like, but it really does look like glass gems. And I thought, that would be a really cute fall decoration, right? Well, then I also learned it claims to be a good popping corn. It's not. I tried popping it. I had maybe 3 kernels out of a quarter cup that actually popped. But this is a great dry corn. I have made grits from this, which true grits is, hominy, but you can make it from, I guess maybe it's like cream of wheat, but with corn. And I've also made cornbread from it. And that was just 6, 10 or 12 foot rows. And I still have some, and I gave some away. So this would be a great alternative. I cut up the ground, I planted it, I let it grow. I don't even think I put fertilizer on it the first year. So, anyway, I just wanted to show y'all, if you freak out, don't freak out. If you don't have a yard, I'm sure you know someone that does. Just say, hey, let's put a garden in your yard and I will do the work. And as a thank you, you can have some of it. There are options for self-reliance and sustainability. You just have to think outside the box. Okay. So, what did I miss?
I might point out that almost anywhere that you live, if you live in a suburb, if you live in like in the urban places, there's an empty lot near you. And odds are, if you just start working on it, like people are probably not going to stop you, especially with all the stuff that's going on here. But you can also just like, you can look up the tax records, find out who owns it, call them, be like, hey, do you mind if I make your property better? Like they're probably not going to turn you down, and you can totally do it. There's like the YouTube is filled with like endless amounts of stories of people who do that, and they just turn it into a community garden and everybody gardens. Like, you know, you just because it's not on your property doesn't mean you can't garden, and doesn't mean you're going to have to like pay to rent something. Like you can probably find a place to do it for free.
And I like how you said you approached it with, can I make your property better? Because who's going to say no to that? Give them an offer they can't refuse.
Yeah, I've seen stories about that. They call it guerrilla gardening, where people just move into empty lots and start growing gardens there. And next thing you know, it's like the whole community gets involved with it. It's pretty awesome.
I cannot remember the author's name, nor can I remember the name of the book. But I was listening to a book one time on a trip, and it was about this woman. I want to say she lived in the Bronx, maybe, but she decided she learned how to garden, and she had this very small backyard, and she wasn't like in an HOA or anything, but she like lived, you know, like in the ghetto pretty much. But she decided that she was going to eat only what grew within a block of where she lived. And she, you know, she gardened her backyard. She stuffed it as full as she could. She had animals. I think she had chickens, she had turkeys, she had rabbits, I think. And then she also started growing food in other people's yards. And the lot that was next to her was vacant. So she grew, she didn't ask anybody, she just did it. Just started growing stuff in the back lot. Now, unfortunately, someone did come in and like plow it all down and start building something. But anyway, it's a very interesting read. I'll have to look it up and see if I can find it. But it was really cool. She was very hungry during that time when she was only eating what was close to her, but it was still pretty cool. All right, so are we ready to move on from the duo? Organic label, the USDA Organic Label Plus non-GMO project label. Let's see.
Oh, real quick, I did want to say one thing about that. And it was kind of like one of those light bulb things. And it was like the whole BT toxin, how it does. It makes the pests' stomachs explode. And you think about all of the people who are having gastrological problems. Yeah, Hannah. I really believe that has got to be some sort of, that has to play a role with that, because I mean, of course, a lot of people eat junk, but even people who eat healthy are having a lot of issues, and that's got to play a role in it all.
I'm sure it does. Like when you go gluten-free, you eat a lot more corn than you did before, because that's one of the substitute grains that you use when you go away from gluten. And when I first went gluten-free, probably, I mean, not that I'm gluten-free, but when I first like, you know, started eliminating gluten from my life, like there was a lot of, you know, corn chips and corn this and corn that. And so I'm sure it goes in part of it. And until I actually read this, I never gave much mind to the GMO free label. And I think that is because I was like, people put it on things that a GMO farm doesn't even exist. And I'm just like they'll put it on like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Pasta sauce. Okay. Like there's no GMO tomatoes. Why is that on there? But the other ingredients that are in the pasta sauce, they might have a GMO link to them. And so I was just like, it just kind of made me think. I was like, okay, so I can see why pairing the two might be important. Because before I was just like, whatever, you know, but now I'm like, okay, I get it. There's lots of other crap that's in this stuff that I had no idea that non-organic vitamin C is derived from corn. I didn't know that. And if it's not organic, it's not organic corn. It's probably GMO.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I think what stinks about the fact that you have to read all these multiple labels is that you would think that it's supposed to be the organic USDA organic label is supposed to mean non-GMO. Those things are not supposed to be made with GMOs. And so ideally they shouldn't be, but because there's so many people stamping those things inappropriately, they added this other third party, which is that non-GMO project. And that third party has better standing and better, I don't know what the right word is, but they're more reputable because they are a third party. They are not a government entity. They are not tied to a company. They are a separate entity. And so them being legit and keeping, making sure everybody's doing exactly what they're supposed to do within their guidelines is a good thing. I actually like that label better than the organic label sometimes, because I don't necessarily need it to be organic always, but I do want it to be non-GMO. I don't know if that's always right, but I think if I have to choose, sometimes I'm going to go with the thing that's non-GMO verified over the organic version. So
You mean you can't trust the government? Shocker.
that's ridiculous. Yeah, and and what you were saying, Constance, about the BT, that's basically is the insecticide. So when the insect eats the plant, it kills the insect. It makes their stomach explode. But yeah, that leads to leaky gut, which leads to autoimmune disorders, which is why you have all these weird allergy things going on with people, because anytime the gut starts leaking, whatever leaks out of the gut becomes your allergy because your body is like, that's not supposed to be there. So that's why people develop all these weird allergies later in life, because the gut's leaking and those things that you're eating are going out of the gut into your body. And that's what triggers that immune response. So yeah. So the corn and the soy and all that stuff that is the wheat, things are causing that leaky gut, which is leading to all these other problems. And it's just a vicious cycle. And until we pull those things out of our diet completely, we're going to keep having the same problems.
Becca's by the Bay points out that GMO has also been changed to bioengineered on labels now. And that is true. It's hard to keep up. There are so many things. It's like once our society has caught on to certain words, it's like the food industry is like one step ahead of us. Okay, we got to change the name. We got to change the name. It's very, very frustrating. I know, like with MSG, it's not always called MSG. It has several different names. And like we learned in this practical bite, that corn products have hundreds of different names and come in hundreds of different forms.
I think that's why it's so important. What they had said earlier in the book is not consuming anything that you don't know what it is. So it's like, if you see something, you're like, what is that ingredient? Take 5 seconds in the grocery store, look it up and be like, oh, it's GMO corn. Like, so if you don't know what it is, look it up or just walk by it.
Yeah. Crazy. All right. We ready to move on to the trio? Okay. So practical bite number 23. Look for the trio. So that is the two that we just talked about, plus glyphosate residue free. Now, I don't think I have ever seen this label on anything.
I haven't.
But they do have pictures. Do they have pictures of this one? I can't remember.
172.
I think it is towards the back.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Here we go. Oh, thank you. Constance got it. All right. So have any of y'all seen this seal on anything before?
I haven't, but I also don't, until now, I haven't paid much mind to all of those seals that come on the packages. And I think now when I am buying packaged foods, I think I'm going to pay a bit more attention to those, because like it's saying in the book, like it's way different than, like they're a business. Like they depend on people trusting them. And it's like, it's not some huge conglomerate like Nestle or some crap like that who thinks that water should be privatized. But like, it's smaller companies that actually depend on their reputation. And if they let things slide and if things go through, then the reputation's trash and people aren't going to pay to put their label on their product. So like it actually means something, I think. So I'm just going to pay more attention to those in the future.
Tim grabbed this for us. GMO is commonly used to describe any of these terms and vice versa. Genetic modification, GM seeds, biotechnology, biotech seeds, genetic engineering, and transgenic crops. Y'all, leave our kids alone, leave our rights alone, leave our food alone, leave our medicine alone, leave my private life alone, leave my money alone. Just leave us alone.
Yeah. Here. Yes. Yeah.
It's getting hot in here.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm getting toe up from the flow up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
You feel like you've been taken over by everything, and that like you have no control over any part of your life. Like every time you're like, okay, I'm going to take this part of control back in my life, you realize that there's something else that's stopping you. And it's like every place you turn, you're still stuck in a system somewhere. You can't escape the system. It's just driving me crazy because you feel like you're going to have some control over things and you just don't. You end up seeing like, no, I really don't. Oh, it's frustrating. Very frustrating.
Just to kind of like reiterate the lack of control that we have. If you went and paid cash, hard cash, for a piece of property, it is deeded to you. You own this property, right? No. Even if you have paid for it outright, it is yours. You don't pay taxes on it. Guess what? The government's taking it from you because it's theirs.
Yeah,
you have the illusion. Yeah, you have the illusion that it's yours.
Yeah.
Or there's also, what is it, eminent domain? If they need it for the road, guess what? It don't matter that you paid for it. It don't matter that your grandpa bought it and then he passed it on to you. If they want it, they take it. When I learned that, which I hate to say was not that long ago, a few years ago, I mean, I had an emotional response to that. I was infuriated, like, what the heck? So anyway, and this just goes to...
I think one of the things about that one in particular was that a few years ago, it went from being for public use to for public benefit. So therefore, if they can build a bunch of fancy schmancy condos and the government, the public can benefit off of all of those higher taxes, opposed to your family farm that's been there, been in the family for generations. Well, they don't get much money off of that. And so the public doesn't benefit from your farm, but they're going to benefit from those fancy condos. And so they can take your property now and not just turn it over for public use, but they can give it to someone else, a private entity, for the benefit of the public. That's where I about lost it, because the Supreme Court ruled on that back in, gosh, it was when we lived in North Carolina, so it was several years ago. I remember thinking then, we're done.
Yeah, we are.
Ultimately, take it from you. It really
sound like a robot, Julie.
I'm sounding like a robot.
Oh, now you're good. Can you want to I didn't
now. Yeah, country internet isn't what it's all cracked up to be. It's not that great.
So one thing that I don't know, like you have to get into the mindset of these people, and it's like they think that they know what's better for you than you know. They think that you're not capable of managing your own affairs because we're all just useless eaters, like they don't they don't have any regard for us. We're just sheep. So you have to just bear that in mind. Like they'll do whatever they want. And they've proven correct. Like people aren't going to fight back, not enough to make a difference. So they can just steamroll people into doing whatever they want. As long as
And I think that's a scary part of this is they believe this garbage that they're spewing. They believe it wholeheartedly.
Yeah, that is the only way to feed the world is to dump how many. This is what killed me. Okay, can we jump back on the glyphosate thing really quick? So 200
really quick, before you do that, can you, for people who haven't read the book and they're just following along, can you explain what that is?
Okay, so glyphosate is Roundup. Basically, Roundup is a herbicide that everyone pretty much uses in some way, shape, or form in their yard, on farms. I don't use it. I don't use it now, but at some point we've used this stuff. Probably all of us have used this stuff. It's used on playgrounds and parks everywhere to kill the dandelions and everything else. So it's basically all of the GMO crops have been, I won't say all of them, most of them have been designed Roundup ready, which means they are resistant to the Roundup. They have genetics built into them. That means you can spray Roundup on this stuff as much as you want, and it won't kill that plant, but it'll kill all the weeds around it. So basically, they can dump as much as they want. And then we're going to consume those GMO crops that are loaded with glyphosate, and not just those crops, but that they have seen, if you've read this chapter, like basically glyphosate has been found in almost every single human being, in their hair, in their blood, in their skin. Kids are the most susceptible to it. So basically we are full of glyphosate, whether we are consuming GMO or not. We are still getting it into our, because it is so heavily sprayed everywhere. 275 million pounds a year in the U.S. alone. That's just the United States a year. They said that is 1,500 tractor trailer trucks full of glyphosate every single year.
It's sickening. It's sickening, especially like what is the long term like consequences of this going to be?
Go 3 generations.
Yeah,
You can
we're
stop using
reaching the end of that.
and your great grandkids would have it in them.
Yeah.
You know, and it makes me think of, you know, just as a faith aspect of it, the Bible talks about how in the end days there's going to be pestilence and there's going to be famine. I'm like, is it man-made? Is it our fault? Is it a consequence of our actions?
Yeah.
Yep. And I think a lot of people misunderstand. Like, I think that the farmers believe that they need this to feed the world. I do not think that that Monsanto believes it. I know that they know it's bad, and I know that they know exactly what they're doing to people. They're killing people. They know it, and they don't care. It's all about the Benjamins. They do not care. They have a very different agenda behind the scenes than they do in the front of the scenes, and people need to realize it. It's all about the Benjamins. It's all about control. Pardon me, but it's also about population control. It's about control in every aspect. Like they do not have a normal human being's priorities in mind. They don't. The farmers might, but the companies don't.
Yeah, I 100% believe that. I believe that if not all farmers are good, hardworking people that feel like they're making a difference. Mm-hmm. And but the system that helps them is corrupt.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, because it's not the farmers saying, hey, let's poison the food. It's not like that. It's they decided at some point to become a farmer, and they probably grew up in it and inherited it from their family at some point. And farming changed, you know, in the last 50 years. And so now once you're in it, you're kind of in it. And if you're this that only grows corn or only grows soy, you're not getting out of that anytime soon. Like, that's what you're doing. And once you're in that system, you're buying the GMO corn, because you have to buy patented seeds from these companies every year. You have to use the Roundup, because otherwise the stuff is going to die and the weeds are going to take over. So it's like a contractual thing. Like, they're going to do because there's no other option for them. There's no way to go, okay, we're going to stop farming our 1,000 acres and start farming it in a completely different way than we did before. It's almost impossible task. And it's sad because, you know, what's going to happen to the farmer? What's going to happen to our food system in that regard? Because they're not going to get out of that way of doing things. It's just going to be more of a shift, I think, in other places. I don't know. They'll end up just going out of business versus changing their practices. I think it's an all or nothing thing. And unfortunately, they'll probably just go out of business or lose the farm, so to speak, with what's happening now with the food shortages. If they can't farm it at all, then what? So I don't know. I'm sad for the farmer because I think they're stuck.
Yeah. It's kind of, when you were talking about all that, it's making me think about like trying to get out of the mob. It's like just when you think you get out, they suck you right back in.
Yeah, there's all different kinds of things that go into that too. I was watching something years ago. It was a documentary on GMOs or something like that. And one of the big major farmers was saying that like there's no point in separating yourself and making yourself a non-GMO or non-sprayed because there's no grain processors near them who separate. It all goes into one kitty. You don't get any extra for it. You don't get any benefit for it. And I'm sure that that's probably changed now. That had to have been 10 years ago that I saw that documentary. But like, I mean, those sorts of things that you don't think about, like, it's not just growing it. It's like, who are you going to sell it to? Who's going to process your grains separately from the other ones? Why does it make a difference? And so I think a lot of activism has changed it probably since then, but it's still the same. Like, it's like, you know, that ship that just, you know, it left Turkey and miraculously changed to organic when it got to the shores of the United States. Like, you know, it's like all that kind of sketchy stuff goes into it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm clicking on comments as you guys are talking. Heather said the scary part is that GMO seeds have disrupted the natural ecosystem, and we have become so reliant on them. Unwinding this is crazy, and I think this is one of the beautiful things about this book. That's the heart behind Joel Salatin. That is what he has been trying to change for decades. Is that we've got to go back to these old practices, to regenerative farming, because not only does it affect what we're eating, it affects the family, which affects the society, which affects the world. I mean, it's all encompassing, in my opinion. I really believe that this movement, this agrarian movement, is going back to biblical times. You know, we rely on the Creator because from Him is where everything comes from. And when you have a family farm and a community that surrounds that family farm, you have a much stronger and healthier economy and system. And we have gotten so far from that. And it's you know, you think about what things were like, you know, way back in Jesus's time. I mean, you know, we were talking about how like every single one of us have glyphosate in our system. Imagine what times were like before that. What did a normal human being feel like? They probably had more energy and more clarity and less aches and pains and ailments than we see now. I need to let my little dog in. The sky just opened up. Be right back.
Yeah, I've also, I don't know if you guys have seen this, probably over the years, I've seen where because corn, especially with corn, the cross-pollination of corn into other fields is so prolific that fields 5 miles away from a patch of corn can be contaminated with or cross-pollinated with. So basically, a farmer that's growing organic corn could be cross-pollinated with the GMO corn, and now that crop is no longer organic corn the next year. Okay, so not the current year, but once it's cross-pollinated, then when that farmer, the organic farmer, says, I'm going to save my seeds from my organic corn that has been cross-pollinated with the GMO corn, they are now in violation of patents of the GMO corn. Those farmers get sued for growing GMO corn that from seeds that they saved of their own that were organic, they are now being sued and they're losing their farms. So Monsanto can basically sue farmers for saving seeds on their own property. The farmers that grow GMO corn are not allowed to save their seeds. They must purchase brand new seed every single year. They are so contractually obligated to these companies for these seeds. The seeds themselves are this technology. They're technology. They're not just this natural thing. Piece of technology that the company owns, and if anyone tries to steal their technology and grow it, they're going to come after you. So it's terrible. It's terrible.
The only way that farmers can fight it is to test their own stuff ahead of time. If the farmers can catch it ahead of time, they can sue the other farmers in Monsanto, but until we actually do, they can't. They're just unless they do, they're screwed.
Yep.
That's one of the things we kind of took into account when we were looking for properties, is we wanted to make sure we weren't near any kind of crop fields, because I was concerned about the things that the crop fields might have in them, not only what they're growing, but also just the pesticides and all those things. So we do have some farms near us, but they're all like grass-fed cows. A lady up over the way, she raises Wagyu beef, and she's like all natural and all that, and so we're relieved about that. But I mean, that's why heirloom seeds are so important. But if you grow heirloom seeds and you're right next to a farm field and they grow everything you can imagine, you got to worry about Monsanto thinks the farmer should be responsible for what the bees do. It's insane. It's up is down and down is up and good is bad and the whole 9 yards.
But this is how we change it. Literally just talking about it, bringing awareness, getting mad and saying, I'm not participating in that anymore. I'm going to pull myself out of it as much as I can. And so you do that. And you know what? We're not perfect. I've got a bag of Rice Krispies over there on the counter. We talked about this earlier. Like, we're not perfect, but where we can pull out, we pull out of it. And where we can, do better, we do better. And so we just have to keep talking and keep making people aware. And because people just don't know, they just assume everything is safe to eat. They just assume it, because why wouldn't they? The government is here to help. They said it was okay. So here it is.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. I don't know if y'all saw my grocery haul that I posted earlier this week, and I was like, "Who's leading a Beyond Labels book club? Not me."
Yeah.
Oh, mercy. But yeah, I
apologize though. Don't apologize, because we all are just doing what we can. We do the best we can. We make good choices when we can, and we have to fall within a budget too. I mean, it just is what it is. Yeah, it
is. And that's one thing that I love about having the skill sets that I've learned over the years about growing my own food and doing all of those things, is that I kind of feel like it equals out some. I have some control over our shortening our food supply chain. And I did see where Jennifer said, this is making me pretty furious. So I'm glad that you said that, Julie, that is, that's usually where change begins, is whenever we have an emotional response to things that are happening around us. Because if we were all like, what do you do? Then nothing would happen. And I think that's part of the problem, like you said, or what was said earlier, is that, people are, that we allow it to happen. It's not that we want it to happen, but there's just not that, we feel like we have no power. And so it's just like, it is what it is. What do you do? I was like, well, we can demand better. And if enough of us, kind of like, what is that Dr. Seuss book, Horton Hears a Who? When we collectively raise our voices, we can shake things up. But it all begins with educating yourself. And then, if getting infuriated is the fuel that propels you to start raising your voice, then I don't think that's a bad thing.
I think that the downside of like things only change when people have an emotional reaction is that emotions fade and people's interest fade, and it's like you have to capitalize on people's emotions with knowledge, and you have to be like, yeah, you're pissed about this, but this is why you should be, this is why you should continue to be upset about it, and this is why you should continue, this is all this information, because it's like emotions fade and then people just forget about it and they move along, like it's crazy. So I mean, you have to kind of capitalize on that. And it's also, there was a quote, what was it, all it takes for evil to take over or whatever is for good men to sit by and do nothing. Like it doesn't take a lot. It just takes people to be passive and just be okay and allow it. And that's why we're in the situation we're in now. Like the science is obvious. Like it's been obvious since frickin' the 1950s when they were spraying kids with DDT to prevent polio. Like, hello, that's obvious. Like, why would you do that? But they did it, and they did it in like truckloads of like sprayers. They'd take it to pools and spray children with DDT regularly and then wonder why everybody had symptoms of polio. Polio.
Yeah, I like how Sarah says need to demand more transparency, disclosure in plain terms, and I agree wholeheartedly. If these companies want to continue to produce chemically laden foods from top to bottom, that's fine. I'm sure there are some people who will still buy it, but we want the choice. We want to be able to know without having to sit down and have some sort of like college degree to figure out what in the world is in my Cheerios. I mean, come on. Like, I just want to know.
Yeah. Agreed. More transparency.
All right, so I'm trying to, okay, here we go. Practical bite number 24. Now there's a quartet. I like quartets with good harmonies. And I think this is one of them. All right, so the quartet is the USDA organic seal plus the non-GMO project label seal plus the glyphosate residue-free seal plus the land to market ecological outcome verified seal. Say that 3 times fast. And it looks.
And that is another one I have never laid eyes on, I don't think.
Never heard of that.
No. There we go.
Land to market verified. Yeah. That one is brand new to me. Never heard of that street at all.
I haven't either. So I'm gonna ask y'all in the chats, have any of you all ever seen this? So yeah, this was something new to me too. I love the sound of it. Sounds great. Wish all of them could be like that.
I guess this has to do with the way that they farm. I'm trying to figure out like what does it mean exactly? What does the label mean? Oh, it's Willow.
Oh, he's got that baby. Oh. Okay. Let's see. I was gonna see. I know somewhere on here it's got the breakdown of what it means. Okay. So David Rizzo, the Chief Operating Officer of Savory Global, who explained that the land to market EOV seal is different than any other certification because it provides a voice for the land. By measuring the health of the land, farmers and ranchers can better communicate with the land and consequently change management practices based on what the land needs. That's a lofty goal. It will take time to learn how to listen to the land, i.e. to know which measurements are accurate, effective, and reproducible. The Savory Institute understands that, hence, the protocol is updated every year. The current protocol was reported as an effective short-term monitoring approach that ranchers could implement annually to monitor grazing lands and determine the impacts of ranch decision-making on important ecosystem indicators. So I'm assuming then that if you are a farm, a big ag farm, then you are boxed into practices that are handed down to you by the government. Is that safe to say? So then if a farm has this land to market where they can read the land or listen to the land, then if they need to go outside of those guidelines to make the land healthier and have a better product, they still, I'm sure, have guidelines, but they can move outside of the, like what a GMO farm would do. I totally pulled that out of my rear just now, so, but
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
I don't know exactly. It sounds like it's a voluntary program potentially, so that the farmers are participating, saying we want to participate in this program, and every year we're gonna commit to evaluating our soil and our land to see if it's healthy and do what's necessary to fix it. That's what I gather from it, but I don't know if that's right or not. So maybe they're just part of the program, or do they have to? I don't know. I really don't know anything about this label. Nothing. This is the first time when we read this was the first time that I have seen the label. So
I think it's what Log Cabin Bakery and Farm mentioned. It's what people are referring to as regenerative agriculture. I mean, basically like Joel Salatin is doing, you know, what he has kind of pioneered.
Yeah, that was one of the things that he was saying. Where are we at? Okay. Some of the practices that can lead to regenerative outcomes include no tilling, covering the soil with cover crops or mulch, growing a variety of plants and animals in one location. Some organic farmers also promote monocultures. Therefore, if your food is labeled USDA organic, it may be lacking a healthy microbiome as well as optimal nutrient profile. So then I'm guessing that this land to market verified gives organic farmers that option. And then it goes on to say that there is a loss of freedom, and I think it's referring to that if they do have that certification, that means that there's probably more inspections. They have to do it, they still have to do it in certain parameters. So there's
one day I'm going to find that seal on something.
It was hilarious. It was at the end of that by them going back and forth where she's like, well, if it's all you can do, then it's really good. But then he's like, well, just find a local farm. He's like, this is all paperwork and bull crap. And then she's like, but it's the best you can do. I just thought it was funny.
Mrs. Kim says it'd be nice if there was just a skull and crossbones because it's poison. It'd be nice if they just put that on everything, wouldn't it be?
okay. So I just did a quick Google search. Oh, yeah, Heather, she copied the same thing I did. When you see, oh, hang on, let me show this. When you see the land to market verification sale on products in the marketplace, you can know that product came from land that is verified as regenerating. Yeah, I would definitely like to look into that just to see, because we already know that if you have that USDA organic label, that you have had to go through all kinds of hoops and red tape. So I can't imagine what a farmer would have to go through to get this label.
Well, it's because the organic label was perverted so much that things that were being called organic were right on the verge of not really being. Because like they said, it can still be monoculture of crops just being done in an organic version. And so, yeah, I think they're really, it's to give the true regenerative farmer a way to say, we really are. We really are doing it organic, not just that way. We're doing it the real way. We're actually doing stuff with the soil and the ground and all that. So it's just all perverted, you know, like it's because of the labels. They have to keep making more labels and more entities and more agencies to oversee this new version of whatever. And it's just, it's too many labels.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, so we are getting close down to time, so if it's all right with y'all, we'll go ahead and move on to the last one, which is eat real salt. Okay, so before we get into eat real salt, let's talk about the conventional white iodized salt that a lot of us might have on our tables. So I guess the question is, what is it supposed to look like? What does salt look like before it's white ground up stuff added to it and then put in a blue box? Anyone?
Well, it's definitely not pure white.
Do you want me to get some? I got some right here.
Sure, if you got it handy.
I just have the pink stuff.
I got the pink stuff.
I'm
I got some gray stuff, but very
I don't
little.
know if you can see it though. Can y'all see it?
It's chunky.
Mine is. This is coarse. This is coarse, but yeah, it's really chunky. It's chunky and coarse, and it's gray. Mine is. This is gray. Yeah, but this is sea salt, and I know sea salt isn't always the best salt. This is Celtic gray sea salt. I do have Himalayan salt, pink Himalayan salt too, but I need to get the real salt. I have not done that yet, but I have a lot of salt right now, and I can't just get rid of it. I'm going to use what I have, and then I'm going to go to the real salt. But yeah, it's chunky and crystally and gray, and it tastes minerally. It's really good.
Yeah, I have the pink stuff. I really like pink Himalayan sea salt. I also have not invested in the real salt, but I plan to eventually.
I have been using real salt for about 15 years now. I do occasionally use like some kosher salt or like maybe pickling salt for specific things like with canning. But easily 99% of everything I do is with Redmond real salt. I've used it forever. I buy it by the big bucket. Lasts forever.
So, okay, I guess, man, Heather, I wish you were on here. I guess really what we need to look at is, why do we need salt? Why is it important? Why does it matter where your salt comes from? Why does real salt matter? So I guess we can start there. Why do we need salt? What's in it? What does it do? Why does it help us? Why do we need it?
Well, in medical, sodium is part of our electrolyte system in our body, and we have to have sodium for our heart to function properly and for our nervous system to function properly. There is a balance. We have lots of I don't know how, there's lots of little chemical things that happen within your body, and they have to do with sodium, magnesium, potassium. All those things are super important to do with your heart. And so, and lots of other things too, but mainly with your heart. And so, yeah, sodium is very, very important for that. Yeah, Heather says for cardiovascular health. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got all those other minerals that your body needs as well. I mean, yeah, if you don't have the salts, if you don't have all of those in you, the electrical system in your body doesn't work. Your nerves and everything else, it's just like, electrical wires. If you don't have something to conduct it, the signal isn't going to work.
Right. I'm going to highlight Heather again here. So we know, what do you say to someone that says, I just need to go off salt? I get a lot of inflammation and I get a lot of swelling. I just need to go off salt. I need to watch my sodium.
They probably do. they probably do need to go off iodized salt and all of the the salt that is in processed foods. There is way too much of it, and we consume too much of it in that regard. If you are cooking your own food, most of your food that you cook from scratch, it's not salted. You have to add salt. So if you are eating at home and you're adding your own salt, like, you must add it. Yeah, if you're out, I would say, yeah, for sure. You need to cut out all the iodized processed salt. Like, most people do need to do that. But you can't just eliminate salt altogether. You must have salt in your body. Otherwise, you die.
Right.
In the emergency room, we would see people that had problems with their salt level, and they are on the verge of death. It's salt, calcium, magnesium, potassium, all of those things. If you don't have those in the appropriate levels in your body, you will die. So it's very important that you have those in the right balances. And when you get those ones with the minerals too, it's even better because you're getting other stuff that your body needs.
So with buying just the white table salt, you're not getting, especially if you eat processed foods, like you said, you're getting salt. You're just not getting the minerals that you need to function as a human being. I know, like, for those of us who do keto, when in the first phase of it, you're losing a lot of inflammation, and that is rid through your body through flushing out. Like, you lose the liquid, and with that goes your electrolytes. And so whenever you are depleted of your electrolytes, there are all kinds of crazy symptoms. You get muscle cramps. You can get dizzy. Your heart can race. You can feel like you have the flu. And so whenever you are, it's so important. And also, who was it that pointed this out one time? Humans are the only animals in nature that don't travel for miles to lick the bank of a river or something like that for the minerals. And you know what's funny is our dogs will go outside and lick the ground. Like, they're getting the minerals out of the dirt. So I don't know. It's like we are ignoring the signals that our bodies give us when they are depleted of certain minerals, and so sometimes we go look for it somewhere else, whether it's in a medicine or something of that nature. But healthy salt is so very, very important.
When we traveled the Alaska Highway through like the Yukon and stuff, when we were coming back down, especially because there was still a lot of snow everywhere, we had to watch for animals in the road because that's exactly what they were doing. They were coming out to the highway and looking the road for the salts.
Yeah, I see Pamela says, I was hospitalized twice for low sodium. So yeah, your balances of those different minerals in your body are so, so important. Yep. Salt. Water follows salt. Water follows salt. Remember that.
Yeah. And Heather said salt is also important for hanging on to water. And I think we've talked about this before, if you drink just water and you're constantly flushing out your system and you have no minerals with that water, that's all it's doing is just running through you. You're not getting the actual benefits of hydration. You're just running it through like a percolator. All right. Let's see. I know for those of you who don't know who Heather is, I keep highlighting her comments, but this lady knows a thing or two because she has seen a thing or two and she has a certification. But Heather is what do you call yourself? A
functional nutritionist, I think. Functional nutritionist.
That sounds right. And she has extensive knowledge in this stuff. She does have videos on her YouTube channel. She's been on lots of different podcasts and things. And we are going to have her on one of our talks very soon, hopefully. She says fatigue, thirst, muscle cramps, dehydration, heart palpitations, racing heart, fainting, all symptoms of low minerals. So if you're experiencing any of these, just take you a bite out of a salt rock. I'm kidding. Don't do that. But no, that could be the problem that you're having. Okay, look at this comment. If you've read The Dirt Cure, she recommends that her PT's parents let the kids play in dirt barefoot. Interesting book meant for parents, but adults can apply to themselves. Yeah, that's her YouTube channel name is her name. It's Heather Cohen, Cooan. I think I say your last name right. I'm not sure. I think you should be able to hover over her name and those three dots pop up. I think if you click on that, it gives you the option to either go to her channel or subscribe. But yeah, she's got a lot of really cool stuff over there. And what's cool is she said that in her journey of which I don't want to give away all of her good stuff, but she was very, very sick. I'll just put it that way. And instead of going the conventional route of medicine, she went through the natural route, and through that has found her way to homesteading, which is why she has become a good channel friend to all of us. And anyway, so that's pretty cool. All right, so yes.
Real quick. With the comment that you have highlighted, that's actually how I had issues with oxalates, and oxalates are digested by a bacteria that is soil borne. And so when I had my own organic garden, I would oftentimes I would munch on beets every once in a while, or especially radishes. Like I would just dust them off and I would just eat them. I wouldn't wash them off. And so the bacteria was still remaining. And I had very, very painful issues with oxalates. Like I would literally be in the fetal position. I was in so much pain. And after doing that for a year or two, it was gone. And I ever since then, I have no issues with it. I should put a caveat. I haven't tried it since I did my latest bout of antibiotics. So I would assume I'm probably gonna have to do it again, but it's really, really important. If you have issues with oxalates, or if you have a lot of digestive pain with eating certain things, look it up and see if it's high in oxalates, and that might be your problem.
That's really interesting. My husband has had a lot of digestive issues as long as I've known him, but he ignores it and he just eats whatever he wants to. So, but he also is prone to kidney stones, which I know oxalates is something that contributes to that. So I might just tell him he needs to eat more dirt. All right. Okay, so we are actually over our time. Any final thoughts? This has been an amazing chat. Once again, you guys are awesome, and I'm always in awe of your knowledge and just mind blown. Any last thoughts?
No, I enjoyed our chat today, ladies. It was good. I'm glad we got to see Willow too. She always brings into the conversation.
And a little puppy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've got a zoo over here. Well, I'm glad I was able to join y'all today.
Me too.
Yes.
Yep.
Yours too. All right. So for next week, if you guys want to read Practical Bites 26 through 30, and then after that will be 30 through 34. And then after that is on to the next section. So we're thinking, what we were discussing briefly before we got on here is after next week and the week after, we'll pause before we go into the next section. And gentlemen, and we'll do like a Q&A. And Heather, I'm going to call you out and see if you would be available and if you would like to join the panel. That I think that would be a really great discussion. Kind of wrap up the Practical Bites. Maybe kind of see where everybody is in their journey. If y'all want to share any victories that y'all have had, any light bulb moments that you've had. I think that would be a really great, I think that would be a really great live. So anyway, you guys are amazing. Thank y'all so much. We're going to go ahead and get off of here. Until next time, remember to be.
Thank you, Tim, for moderating.
Yes,
Thank you, Tim.
Tim. And Heather says she'll be there. Yay, Heather, yay.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay, yeah, I'll have to get with you and get an email address, and then I can send you the link that day. All right, so until next time, remember to be vigilant, be prayerful, and be prepared. God bless you all. We'll catch you on the next one. Y'all have an awesome week.
Bye.
Bye, guys.